Good morning, my name's Steve Avery. I'm a Christian, I'm proud of it, and I've got a limited time to speak to you this morning, but I just want to share a bit about my testimony. My testimony is where I came from and where I'm going to, and what God's done for me. When I was 11, I got sent to boarding school, and I hated it. I spent all my time trying to get kicked out. Anyway, by the time I was 13, I managed to get out of boarding school. But while I was there, we dabbled in magic things like levitation, just playing around with things, because I always believed there was more than just what you see. So when I got out and went to secondary school, I was there from about 13 till 15, and I got thrown out of that one, asked to leave, whatever. And in between, when I was about 14, I'd stolen a few cars and driven a few cars, stupid stuff, because basically I was rebelling. But then actually when I was about 15, 16, I started getting into the occult, and looking at the occult and thinking there's got to be more than what's going on that we can see, and I wanted power. So I started reading occult books, Dennis Wheatley books, different books like that, and I thought I was a bit psychic. So I started going to palmists and spiritualists and trying to find out what was in the future. And really what I was looking for was God. I didn't realise it, because I believed there was a God of some sort. I believed in evil and I believed in good. But while I was going down, I looked at the church and I thought, well, there's no power in the church. I see these guys they have their collars on the wrong way round, and I didn't see any power in the church. And I had to go to church when I was at boarding school and everything like that. So to me, it was just a religious act that people did, and I didn't want to know anything about that. But I believe there was in magic. I believe there was some power in there, and there was some power, and I believe that the devil had the power, because I thought God was somebody that had nothing. So I started getting more and more in reading my tarot cards, reading cards, and going to palmists and stuff. And as I got older, when I got to about 19, I got caught for receiving stolen goods. I was an apprentice mechanic. I became an apprentice because I told stolen cars earlier, and my father gave me a choice, either be a ladies' hairdresser or a mechanic, and I thought, well, mechanic's the best way to go for me. So I had more chance of driving cars, and I wrote off a number of cars in 3 years, up till I was about 19. And when I was 19, I had a flat, and we used to dabble around and do rock music, and I was working on the North Sea on the oil rigs. I was going to go on the North Sea on the oil rigs, and I was scared of heights. So after I got sacked from being an apprentice, and I applied to go on the North Sea on the oil rigs, because in 1972 that was just becoming really big and really well paid. And because I thought that if I stole stuff I'd end up in the nick, that I thought this was my only way of getting really big money. So I applied to go on the North Sea on the oil rigs. But in between that, I've been to a palmist. They turned over the black cars and said, oh, somebody's going to die, but you want to get some money out of it. So I thought, oh, that's okay. I didn't know it was going to be me. So so I applied for the North Sea. I was waiting for that to hear back from that. I was topping trees because I was scared of heights. So I got a job topping trees and keep myself fit and everything. And I was going from one job to another job, because I was only 19 at the time, and in 1972, when you were 19, you didn't get a man's wages. So I was getting more. I needed more money. I always needed more money, because I had a flat. I was living in a flat at 19, and I was doing drugs, and not bad, but just a bit of dope, a bit of speed, and doing nightclubs and stuff like that. So, but I was desperate for money, and I always felt that like I said, God had nothing, but I believe Satan had something. So one night I had this flat. I got back to my flat, and I've been down at a club, and we did speed on the way down, a bit of dope on the way back. Got into my bedroom. I was on my own this night, and I just said, Satan, if you're out there, I want to do a deal with you. And I won't go into all the details, but I felt my room went completely cold, and this voice said back to me, said, well, what do you want? And my hairs on the back of my neck stood up. And I thought, whoops, what have I done now? And I said, well, I want money. And this voice said, it was a conversation, this voice said back to me, he said, well, how much do you want? Well, it was 1972, I was 19 years old. I should have said more, I should have said £1 million really, but I said 25,000. So he said, well, 25,000 is a lot of money. At that time, you could mostly buy 2 or 3 houses with £25,000. So he said, that 25,000 is a lot of money, what are you going to offer me? I said, well, what do you want? And he said, well, I want your soul. I said, oh, no, you can't have my soul. He said, well, make me an offer. I said, I'll tell you what I do. I hated disabled people. I said, I'll tell you what I do. I'll give you the use of my right arm. You can't have my right arm, but you can have the use of my right arm. He said, okay. And we started having this deal, this discussion. He said, well, okay, but 25,000 is a lot of money. What else are you going to offer me? So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the use of my memory. Why I said that, I don't know. But he said, I said, you can have the use of my memory. He said, okay, have the use of your memory and the use of your right arm. And this is just shortening it down. But then he said, I'll tell you what, still 25,000 is a lot of money. What else are you going to offer? He said, well, you've got the use of my memory and the use of my right arm. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come back in 15 years for your soul. But when you're 19, I always had these reoccurring dreams that I died when I was 21 in a motor car accident anyway. So I used to drive like a maniac all the time. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to make it for that time. So I said, yeah, okay, that's not a problem. So that was it. I went to sleep. Next day I went to work as normal, and I had a car then, but I blew the car up and went back to a motorbike. I bought another motorbike, a 650 Bonneville, Drive Bonneville, which was about the biggest bike around, English bike around at that time. And anyway, so I was given a bloke, I was finishing the job that I was working at, and I had a new job to start on the Monday for more money, and the bloke that I was working with, I offered to give him a lift home, and we lived in Guildford, near Guildford. I was giving him a lift home. I was overtaking a car with a car coming towards me. This was in the 5th of January 1973. And as the car that was coming towards me came out into the middle of the road, and he caught the passenger's knee. The passenger had no helmet on, as I remember. We just made helmets legal. I had a brand new helmet on because I just had to, because they were making it legal. His knee came through his jeans. He went right over the top of the car, and he landed up in the grass in the verge with his knee sticking through his jeans. But he was conscious. I hit the car the head on, and I took with my head, which I had a helmet, cracked the helmet from front to back. Took his door pillar out with my head, bounced off him into the car that I was overtaking, bounced off him into the middle of the road, and it was just at the end of a dual carriageway, and all the cars had pulled up. And a Mark III Zodiac came past, it was buses and cars, and it came past them all, and thought I was a bundle of rags in the road, and he went straight over the top of me. And that did so I was unconscious, I had epileptic fits, I had brain damage, which was my memory. I had then broke my nose, put my tooth through my face, I took all the skin off my face, broke 7 ribs, my lungs collapsed, broke my pelvis, even my toenails, where I got dragged down the road. Most of my toenails dropped off over a period of time afterwards, took the skin off my knees and everything. But when the car went over the top of me, it went right across my right elbow. So it went right across my elbow, then across my pelvis, and smashed my bladder. So what I would like to explain, that spiritual things have a physical consequence. So anyway, I was unconscious for quite some time, and during that period of time I had various dreams, and towards the end of that they kept threatening to put a vicar in with me because my language had been so bad. But I went from about 13 stone down to about 8-9 stone, but as you can see I managed to get it back again afterwards. And when I was in hospital, I could feel myself getting colder and colder, even though it was hot in hospital, but where I was laying on my back because I couldn't walk or anything. And when I could come round from being unconscious for some weeks, I could see this cross in Guildford Cathedral. Out of my window I could see this cross on the top of Guildford Cathedral. I kept looking at it, and as a guy died in a private ward near where we were, and all the people came out, all the hospital people came out, doctors came out rushing around with machines to try and save this guy. And I can remember saying to God, if you're real, just can you take me? Take me. I don't want to be. I hated disabled people, and I knew they were draining all this gunge out my elbow every day, and I knew that I was in a real bad way. And I can remember laying down and saying to God, if you're real, can I meet with you? And the next thing I know, I saw Jesus stood in the room with me. He stood in like a window with no glass or anything, just like a window. He just stood looking at me. But what happened, nothing was said, but the warmth just came out of his face and just literally wrapped itself around me.